35-5. In the long history of Major League Baseball, no team has ever started a season so dominantly. The 1984 Detroit Tigers didn't just win the World Series, they steamrolled through an entire season and rewrote the record books. They were known as the Bless You Boys, a nickname born in sarcasm that became a battle cry for an entire city. 4 decades later, the 1984 Detroit Tigers remain the gold standard of wire-to-wire dominance in baseball. But to understand how this magical team came together, we need to go back several years and witness the careful assembly of one of baseball's greatest championship teams. The seeds of a championship were planted on June 12, 1979, when the Tigers hired Sparky Anderson, fresh off creating the Big Red Machine in Cincinnati and on his way to becoming the first manager to win a World Series in both leagues. When Anderson arrived in Detroit, he inherited a team with promising pieces but no clear direction. The foundation was built around a brilliant double-play combination: second baseman Lou Whitaker and shortstop Alan Trammell, both in their early 20s. This duo, who debuted together in 1977, would become the longest-running double-play combination in baseball history. The pitching staff featured a fiery right-hander named Jack Morris, developing into the ace he would become. Lance Parrish, a muscular catcher with power potential, was establishing himself behind the plate. And in the 1978 draft, the Tigers had selected a local multi-sport star from Michigan State named Kirk Gibson, whose raw athleticism was evident even as his baseball skills were still developing. The 1979 Tigers finished 85-76 after Anderson took over, showing promise but lacking consistency. Through 1980 and the strike-shortened 1981 season, Sparky methodically evaluated his roster, identifying who would be part of Detroit's future and who wouldn't. Anderson was blunt about his expectations. He told the press and his players directly, this team would win a championship, not might win, would win. And he made believers out of a group of young players who had never experienced sustained major league success. The Tigers went 84-78 in 1980, Anderson's first full season, finishing 4th in a competitive American League East. The strike-shortened 1981 season saw them go 60-49, again showing potential without breaking through. But behind the scenes, a championship roster was taking shape, piece by methodical piece. As the 1980s progressed, general manager Jim Campbell began making strategic moves to complement the team's homegrown core. One of his first significant acquisitions came in November 1981, when Detroit sent outfielder Steve Kemp to the Chicago White Sox for center fielder Chet Lemon. Lemon brought Gold Glove caliber defense to the Tigers' outfield, covering tremendous ground at Tiger Stadium and providing solid offensive production. This move addressed a specific team need, upgrading outfield defense, and demonstrated Campbell's blueprint for building a complete roster. By 1982, Anderson's patient development began showing results. The Tigers posted a winning record under Sparky, going 83-79. While they still finished 4th in the American League East, internal progress was evident. Kirk Gibson was developing into a fearsome power-speed threat. Morris had established himself as the staff ace, and the middle infield combination of Trammell and Whitaker was blossoming into one of baseball's best, both offensively and defensively. The 1983 season brought a major leap forward. Detroit won 92 games, the most for the franchise since their 1968 championship. Their run differential improved dramatically to plus 110, and they finished second in the American League East, 6 games behind the Baltimore Orioles. The pieces were aligning. Morris won 20 games. Trammell hit .319. Whitaker made his first All-Star appearance. The Tigers had transformed from rebuilding to contending, but finishing second wasn't enough for Anderson or his players. They were hungry for more. The first key addition of the 1983-84 offseason came in December, when Detroit signed free agent Darrell Evans to a 3-year contract. At 37, Evans wasn't a young prospect, but he had hit 30 home runs for the San Francisco Giants in 1983 and brought 17 years of experience to a relatively young Tigers clubhouse. Evans provided left-handed power and could play both corner infield positions, giving Anderson roster flexibility. He was exactly the type of professional hitter the Tigers needed to complement their existing core. Now, under the guidance of Bill LaJoie as the newly appointed general manager, Detroit's masterstroke came just before the 1984 season. On March 24th, with opening day approaching, the Tigers acquired left-handed reliever Willie Hernandez and first baseman Dave Bergman from the Philadelphia Phillies, sending outfielder Glenn Wilson and catcher John Walkenfuss to Philadelphia. This trade would prove transformative. Hernandez, a solid but unspectacular reliever with Philadelphia, would become the Tigers' closer and deliver one of the greatest relief pitching seasons in baseball history. Bergman, considered a throw-in on the deal, would provide excellent defense at first base and deliver several clutch hits throughout the season. With these final acquisitions, the Tigers had assembled a roster that perfectly blended homegrown talent with strategic additions. A rotation led by Morris, Dan Petrie, and Milt Wilcox. A bullpen anchored by Hernandez and Aurelio Lopez. A balanced lineup featuring power, speed, and consistent hitting. Strong defense at virtually every position, particularly up the middle with Parrish, Whitaker, Trammell, and Lemon. The construction of the 1984 Tigers represented a masterclass in team building. Every need was addressed, every weakness shored up. Now, it was time to see if this carefully assembled roster could deliver on the field. As the 1984 season approached, Detroit sportscaster Al Ackerman had been sarcastically using the phrase, "bless you boys," during highlights of previous struggling Tigers teams. It was a tongue-in-cheek expression of faux sympathy for a team that seemed perpetually close, but not quite championship caliber. No one could have predicted how this sarcastic phrase would transform. As the Tigers began their historic run, "Bless you boys" was reclaimed by fans and players alike, appearing on merchandise, banners at Tiger Stadium, and becoming the unofficial slogan of the team. Coming off their 92-win season in 1983, the Tigers entered 1984 with quiet confidence. The analytics and projections of the day favored the defending champion Baltimore Orioles or the always dangerous New York Yankees. Detroit was considered a contender, but few predicted they would dominate the league the way they ultimately did. This underdog status, despite their talent, fueled the Tigers. Gibson, Morris, and others played with a chip on their shoulder, determined to prove the baseball world wrong and show exactly what this carefully constructed team could accomplish. As spring training concluded, Sparky Anderson felt something special brewing. He told reporters this team reminded him of his Big Red Machine clubs, except with better pitching. Coming from Anderson, there was no higher praise. The stage was set for what would become one of the most remarkable seasons in baseball history. The 1984 season didn't just start well, it began with a statement that reverberated throughout baseball. On the fourth game of the season, Jack Morris threw a no-hitter against the Chicago White Sox on national television, announcing in the most dramatic way possible that the Tigers meant business. Morris's no-hitter set the tone for what followed. Detroit won their first 9 games, then 16 of their first 17. By May 24th, they had won an astounding 35 games while losing just 5. An .875 winning percentage, and the best 40-game start in Major League history. This wasn't just a statistical anomaly, it was dominance in every facet of the game. The difference from previous seasons was stark and measurable. In 1983, Detroit's team ERA was .382, fourth in the American League. In 1984, it improved to a league-best .349. Their run production jumped from .789 in 1983 to .829 in '84. Most tellingly, their performance in one-run games transformed from 21-19 in 1983 to a dominant 25-11 in 1984, showing improved clutch performance. The historic start was fueled by contributions throughout the roster. Morris and Dan Petrie anchored the rotation. Willie Hernandez was nearly unhittable out of the bullpen. Trammell, Whitaker, and Gibson provided offensive firepower, and new additions like Darrell Evans and Dave Bergman seamlessly integrated into the team culture. Perhaps most impressively, the Tigers won in different ways. Some days they would outslug opponents with their balanced offense. Other days, their pitching and defense would secure low-scoring victories. They could win with power, with speed, with pitching, with defense, the mark of a truly complete team. The 35-5 start created such a cushion in the standings that the question quickly became not whether the Tigers would win the division, but whether they would break the all-time wins record. Though they couldn't maintain their initial .875 winning percentage, the foundation for a historic season had been firmly established. After their historic start, the Tigers never relinquished first place. They held the top spot in the American League East every single day of the 1984 season, something only a handful of teams have ever accomplished in baseball history. While they couldn't maintain that .8075 winning percentage from their 35-5 start, the Tigers continued demonstrating why they were baseball's most complete team. June and July brought some inevitable regression, but Detroit remained comfortably ahead in the standings. The season featured countless memorable moments that showcased different strengths of this balanced team. Dave Bergman's epic 13-pitch at-bat against Toronto's Roy Lee Jackson on June 4th, culminating in a walk-off 3-run homer. Alan Trammell's emergence as an MVP candidate, hitting .314 with 14 home runs and 69 RBIs while playing Gold Glove caliber shortstop. Kirk Gibson fulfilling his tremendous potential, batting .282 with 27 home runs, 91 RBIs, and 29 stolen bases. Willie Hernandez appearing in 80 games, saving 32 and posting a 1.92 ERA en route to winning both Cy Young and MVP honors. Even with a commanding lead, Detroit strengthened their roster in August, adding veteran outfielder Rupert Jones for the stretch run. Jones would contribute as a left-handed bat off the bench and provide insurance in the outfield. By September, the only question was whether Detroit could maintain their edge heading into October. They answered emphatically, clinching the division on September 18th and finishing with 104 wins, a 12-game improvement over their 92-win season in 1983 and the most victories for the franchise since their 103-win season in 1968. The final regular season numbers told the story of complete dominance: a 104-58 record, a run differential of plus 186, and statistical improvements in virtually every category over their previous season. Having dominated the regular season, the Tigers entered the postseason with immense expectations. In the American League Championship Series against the Kansas City Royals, they wasted no time showing their playoff form was just as impressive as their regular season performance. Detroit swept Kansas City in 3 straight games, never trailing in any inning of the series. Jack Morris threw a masterful 7 innings, while Willie Hernandez slammed the door shut in the 8th and 9th of the series opener. Dan Petrie pitched well through 7 innings of Game 2, giving up only 2 runs, in a game that eventually went into extra innings. The Tigers secured the victory with the help of reliever Aurelio Lopez, who earned the win. And the Tigers closed out the series in Detroit with a 1-0 win. In the World Series against the San Diego Padres, Detroit continued their season-long dominance. After Jack Morris won Game 1 with a complete game, the Tigers suffered their only postseason defeat in Game 2. But even this minor setback couldn't slow their championship march. The Tigers won the next 3 games to claim the title. Alan Trammell earned World Series MVP honors, batting .450 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. And the lasting image of the series came in the clinching Game 5, when Kirk Gibson, playing on injured legs, launched a towering 3-run homer off Goose Gossage in the 8th inning, cementing the championship and creating an iconic moment in baseball history. As Gibson circled the bases with his distinctive one-arm raised celebration, the Bless You Boys had completed one of the most dominant wire-to-wire performances in baseball history. 104 regular season wins, a 7-1 postseason record, and a World Series championship that brought Detroit its first title since 1968. For a city struggling through economic hardship in the early 1980s, the Tigers provided more than just athletic excellence. They delivered civic pride at a moment when Detroit desperately needed something to celebrate. The 1984 Detroit Tigers stand as a testament to perfect team construction and execution. Their dominance wasn't a fluke or a statistical anomaly. It was the culmination of years of careful roster building, player development, and strategic acquisitions. Looking back, we can trace their success to several key factors: patience in developing homegrown talent like Trammell, Whitaker, Morris, and Gibson. Strategic trades and signings that addressed specific needs, particularly the acquisitions of Lemon, Hernandez, and Evans. Sparky Anderson's leadership, which balanced confidence with accountability. A complete roster with no significant weaknesses. Strong starting pitching, dominant relief pitching, balanced offense, and excellent defense. The Tigers' improvement from 1983 to their championship season was measurable across every statistical category, but perhaps most impressive was their consistency, leading the division every single day and never experiencing a prolonged slump. 40 years later, the 1984 Detroit Tigers remain the standard by which dominant baseball teams are measured. Their Bless You Boys nickname has transcended its sarcastic origins to become a cherished part of Detroit sports lore, and their wire-to-wire dominance stands as one of baseball's greatest single-season performances. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of baseball's most memorable teams, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations of legendary teams and the stories behind them. For Tigers fans, 1984 wasn't just a championship, it was perfection. And for baseball historians, this team represents the ideal blueprint of how to build a complete roster that maximizes every element of the game. In the pantheon of great baseball teams, the 1984 Detroit Tigers have secured their eternal place.